lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that.
I'm just gonna start at the beginning, with the house. Someone had put up a chain link fence, but it looked like I wasn't the first person to hop it.
My brother Milton disappeared when I was 4. It was like the house just swallowed him up.
Date missing October 23rd. Date of birth. Whoa. Anyway guys, sorry that my mic's already let low, but hey. Whoa, that house.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
Why 11? Why didn't you just... Why aren't you allowed inside half the rooms?
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
The Finches. So what else am I gonna do? Wait, are we supposed to go? Wait, is this just gonna back on? And nothing missing. Whoa. I was just saying, these graphics. Well, okay. Guess I'd have to go back up there then. This is amazing. Am I pregnant? Or am I just...
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
Am I just like oddly fat?
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
Oh, alright, just need to do something, guys. Actually, not gonna do it later. Whoa.
The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
This music.
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
Is that another one of him? Oh. I'm just gonna join this party because I'm awesome. Yo, Connor, I'm just doing a broadcast on Edith Finch.
What?
Edith Finch
Now,
is the
as a
new,
17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
it's the new PS Plus game.
Is
I
it
hoped
good?
the key might unlock the front door. It didn't.
Just get it.
Jeez. What's on there? Hello.
Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
Nothing.
I just need to leave. Right. Oh, okay. Is that another one? I think the building's the one that we gotta do first. I guess we have to go around the back. This is gonna be like a horror game. Oh, it's creepy. No.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
Yeah.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home.
There's like canned tuna and apple pie. Oh, yum.
The table was still a wreck from the night we left. It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture. My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great-Grandma Edie living in a nursing home. Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth. Great-Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house. Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
Okay. Okay, I don't really want to listen to that again. Anything in the same here? Anything in the beep beep hole?
Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
Oh. Okay,
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
okay, well that's fair enough. Whoa, this is Milton's room. Calvin.
My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
Whoa. Georgie.
As a kid, I just assumed every house had peepholes and sealed rooms you weren't allowed inside of.
Okay. That's it. Wait, whose is this? Several fun and Edith.
The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
Oh. Alright, I'm gonna go in there in a sec. Which one's this? Molly.
Molly always seemed like a girl I could imagine being friends with, if she hadn't died in 1947.
Right, I guess we need to go in
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
Is this gonna do like a secret passage?
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets.
Oh my goodness.
Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
You're not investing.
Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan. But I had no idea what was behind that door.
Oh, here's money's room.
Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
Oh, okay, so it says money on her bed and it's safe. She dissect.
I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time here.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat. The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Fisher.
I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
Oh, Christopher.
My Halloween candy was all gone. Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
Alright, sweet mom.
I kept eating and eating.
It's disgusting.
I ate a lot of things that night.
Hold on, guys. Hey, hi.
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat. I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
It's okay. It's alright. You're jumping. Nah. Nah. I guess we're going. Nah.
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
I'll do sneak. Ha! Ha! Parkour cat. I'm gonna jump you. I'm gonna jump. Just stay still.
I jumped and I almost got her.
Way too hungry for this mess around chit chat. Oh, okay, I got it. I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Eat. Hey. This is actually really cool, man. Where are you?
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird.
Wow, what a nice person you
I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass. Rabbits. I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger. A mama rabbit. She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
biggest meal. Oh.
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever. I wanted fat, juicy seals. I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
I guess I'm looking for blood then. Yummy, yummy in my tummy. Yummy, yummy in my tummy. Yummy. In my tummy.
Grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed. Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere. I was big, but I moved real quiet. I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
Belly with a rusty razor, his belly with a rusty razor, his belly with a rusty razor. What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor? What shall we do with a drunken sailor?
last passenger, I was still hungry. And to cross the water, I smelt something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
Wait, so I guess I'm not talking because I'm not sure. Wait, where's this pipe leading to? Wait, what's I just in there?
I got closer and closer.
Molly's room.
All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to be, and we both know I will be delicious.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have. This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly. I spent a lot of time in Great-Grandma Edie's room.
Well, this is Edie's room.
Her room was like a museum. For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
Okay, that one was quite a short one.
Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways. Even in her 90s, sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother. The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom. It was a pretty big trace. There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book. Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down. From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
So they just dug a tunnel.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin. And that he never talked about him. I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
Oh, just on swim.
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom. And he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready!
Coming!
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that.
Calvin! I'm not gonna tell you again!
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up. Then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother.
Oh, this one's
The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
That was insane.
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
What about this? Hold on.
Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Whoa, is this like a... What is it, Mom? It's like... Secret passages. Huh? Have you eaten any of it? And me, please.
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies. Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always
Mom
want
must
to know
have
about
locked
is
the door
Barbara.
upstairs on the night we left.
This is gone.
Barbara was a child star for 2 years, until America grew out of it. Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star. I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards. Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
Oh my god, we're actually playing.
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
Yeah.
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
The old Finch rattled and grew still.
Oh dear!
Oh!
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and you're...
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the Late Picture Show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
Rikers Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And he was. He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara. There's gotta be another way out of here.
You know the secret passage, where's that over there?
That night, she played her part beautifully.
Molly's room, going out the windows.
She thought about abandoning Walter, but just couldn't do it. Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet.
No, because when we get down there, he's gonna be gone.
The hookman had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was...
People, maybe?
Someone at the door was dying to speak to young Barbara. At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter, hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Okay, that's a bad point, so I've just realised. That's quite a long one. I think that's the longest one we've had.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
I guess they want us to go check the music box then. Where's that secret entrance part? Or is it, oh no, yeah.
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
Alright, should we go play with it one more time then?
It's funny. All those times I played with the music box and never found the basement key.
True. Very true. Should we try it? Huh. That's exactly how she opened it. Is there gonna be Is that just graphics loading in, or is that actual water? Oh, okay, that was graphics loading in. I was like, oh god. So she came in here.
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages. I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
Wait, is this... Is this an underground bunker?
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Alright guys. I think I'm gonna end the episode there. Alright, I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this. Just smash the thumbs up, subscribe, and we will get a second episode onto this. So, heck yeah. I'm gonna end the episode there, and I will see you guys next time.